Do you have any traditional food in your home right now? Our young people are hungry. What are we going to feed them? When we weren't even allowed to harvest king salmon on this river. But meanwhile, I saw fish box after fish box being shipped out in the airport. Alaska king salmon, $79.99 per pound. We're commercial fishing to provide a luxury food for the elite. And what we're seeing is a lot of waste. 500,000 salmon were bycatch. It's not okay for us to not to be able to eat our food, but somebody is able to throw the food that we are hoping for back overboard. So much wasting, so much care about 1 year's worth of profit that they are going to affect how many generations in the future. Like, that mindset has got to change. That was like when I realized, I was like, I have to become an advocate. We have to tell our story. In Alaska, we have the last wild king salmon run. And in the past, there was 8 pulses of salmon on the Yukon River. Building a fish wheel, it is hard work. Getting the logs, going to get the poles in time so they peel good, you know, all the different engineering that goes into building a fish wheel. Me and my dad took 2 summers and worked really hard to put 2 of them together. Back then, you know, you'd see your fish box. Sometimes they got so full, you actually had to stop the wheel to even deal with the amount of fish you had. But we had enough fish to share with our family, to share with all the elders. Cutting up the fish, I like to smell it. Smell my hands, I don't know. That for me is, I like to use all my senses to like connect with it, and then thinking about like how it's available for you, and like not taking that for granted, that you have that food. And thanking the land for providing for you, right? And taking care of the land. When we were harvesting moose, man, you get in shape when you're tanning a moose hide too, I'll tell you. Like, there's no better workout than tanning a moose hide. It brings me all the way back to my grandma's closet and her trunk with all her patterns to sew moccasins and gloves. If you look back at some of our ancestors' regalia and how much work went into creating necklaces or certain beaded jackets, they must have had enough food in their freezer, and they had enough materials and time to go and create this beautiful art, right? And that was wellness. That was wealth. When you have the ability to share food, then you have the ability to practice your culture, and that makes you stronger as Indigenous people. Growing local produce, beaver trapping, harvesting fish, ducks and geese, or harvesting moose, whitefish, picking berries.
Papa, come here, look at all this.
All of that, to me, defines Indigenous food sovereignty, having access to those foods, and those foods are actually available, that the land is actually in a healthy way so that it can produce those foods. It's about just making the commitment to eat locally. Most of our food is imported by air in Alaska. Think about the gas that is needed. We could be keeping that money in our community, creating jobs and improving our health and connection to one another. Our young people are hungry. What are we going to feed them, right? And that means like what culture, what knowledge, what connection to the land, what stories are we going to feed our people so that they can continue to revitalize their culture,
This way.
continue to connect with their true identity and be proud of who they are. That's realizing food sovereignty. The fish have crashed. We're in that right now where we're seeing very low numbers of salmon in the river. And the people profiting from our traditional foods, they have teams of lawyers, researchers, business people, and they're continuing their livelihood. And there are literally billions of dollars at stake. So is the best way of managing these resources to go out and use them till they're gone? Or is the best way to manage them so that they can have a chance to revitalize themselves? As Alaskans, when is our ability to feed ourselves, is that going to become more important? How do we become a force to be reckoned with to stand up to these giants? These are giants. To protect our traditional foods, we have to be coming from a same set of values. And so that fish, that moose, if it gives its life for me, I fully intend to not waste any part of it. We have to advocate for them. And so I'm always really happy to work with University of Alaska Fairbanks, the Tribal Governance Program, and Tanana Chiefs Conference, the Hunting, Fishing, Gathering Task Force. Those two entities have a partnership in which they teach people the very difficult to understand regulations and regulatory system that they have to engage in to protect their traditional foods. And so that involves the Board of Game and Board of Fish, North Pacific Marine Fisheries Council. All of these places have these meetings that we have to provide testimony in to say we don't agree with that proposal and these are the reasons why, or else we want to put this proposal forward and these are the reasons why. Everybody needs to help out. There has to be decision-making power from local tribal governments up into regional politics, to the state, to the feds, and then there's the international waters. That's really where the devastation is happening. So we really have a lot of work to do to change policy and educate people. I had to leave Nenana and ended up going to college and then working in Anchorage. And the reality is we're in a cash economy, right? So I need cash to be able to live my lifestyle. You know, putting a roof over your head or paying the bills. By the time you're raising a family and working full time, having the actual time or resources to go to your traditional places and harvest, it becomes a lot harder. I lost who I was in doing that. I had this dream, my grandma was just like, get yourself together. I didn't raise you to be like this. And so I was like, I gotta go fish camp. Once you're out on the land, that's when you realize who you really are. And when I put up fish in my grandpa's smokehouse for the first time in 31 years, like, that was the most satisfaction I had ever felt in my life. No degree, no fancy award at work, no amount of money could ever measure up to that feeling that I had when I was like, my grandpa would be so proud right now. That's my story. You know, that table had been there for generations, and we were only catching a little bit of fish, but how we cherished that little bit of fish together as a family, it was very special.